Lots is said about the environmental aspects of electric cars, and even more is said about their range. In this video we look at the facts behind why battery electric cars have less range than petrol cars, and whether bigger batteries are really the right solution. Before we get into the difference between petrol and electric cars, let's quickly look at the amount of energy it takes to keep a car moving. If we want to drive a car, say 120 miles at 60 miles per hour, the amount of energy depends on things like the drag caused by the car moving through the air. The force required to overcome this drag is dependent on the square of the speed the car is travelling, the drag coefficient of the car and its size, and the density of the air the car is travelling through. For a typical small car, this force might be around 300 newtons, and keeping this up for 120 miles will take around 16 kilowatt hours of energy. Aerodynamic drag is only part of the story. The force required to overcome the rolling resistance of the tyres is also significant. This force is dependent on the tyres used, the mass of the vehicle, and the effect of gravity. For a typical small vehicle, it might be around 235 newtons, which will consume around 12.6 kilowatt hours of energy over 120 miles. With these two main components of energy use, we can see that we need somewhere around 30 kilowatt hours to propel the car over 120 miles. And to put this in context, this is about the same energy it takes to boil 130 kettles. Because of the conservation of energy, the car needs to change stored energy of some form into that 30 kilowatt hours of energy needed to move it, and this is where petrol and electric cars start to look very different. A UK gallon of petrol contains around 43 kilowatt hours of energy, so you might expect a petrol car to easily cover 120 miles on a gallon of fuel, but of course most petrol cars are more likely to cover 50 miles per gallon, and that's because the engine only converts around 30% of the energy in the fuel to movement, and the rest is wasted as heat and noise. This wastes a lot of energy, but it doesn't really restrict the range of the petrol car because we can just carry lots of gallons of fuel with us. The motor in an electric car, on the other hand, might be 85 to 90% efficient, meaning that it could easily travel 120 miles on the amount of energy in a gallon of petrol. But there is a problem, and it comes down to how the energy is stored. Most electric cars store their energy in a battery pack made up of lots of smaller battery cells packaged up in a metal box. And right now, a 42 kilowatt hour battery weighs around 200 kilos. In contrast, our gallon of petrol weighs less than 1 kilo and can be stored in a lightweight plastic fuel tank. Just as importantly, that 42 kilowatt hour battery pack occupies around 20 times the volume of our gallon of petrol. To see the significance of this, it's worth recalling that drag depends partly on vehicle size and rolling resistance depends on vehicle weight, so a big heavy battery isn't exactly helpful if you're trying to design an efficient car. Batteries are gradually becoming smaller and lighter, but for the foreseeable future, if you want an electric car which can travel the same distance as an equivalent petrol car, the battery in it will have to be very big. And big batteries are a problem for three reasons. Firstly, bigger and heavier cars take more energy to move around. Secondly, it takes energy to make the battery pack, and it'll take energy to recycle it again at the end of its life. The bigger the battery pack, the more energy is needed. And thirdly, big batteries are just expensive. Overall, electric vehicles offer a massive opportunity to get from A to B far more efficiently and cut our overall energy usage, not to mention using energy from greener sources. But if you need them to match the range of traditional cars, their big batteries start to limit their benefits. Luckily, however, the average person in the UK only drives 22 miles per day, and many can charge their car at home overnight, meaning that for some, an electric car with a range of 150 to 200 miles might be an ideal way to reduce energy usage and save on energy costs at the same time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please comment, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.